Hey everybody, I'm so excited to be joining you for another vlog today. I have such the honor to talk to my friend Heather, and we are going to spend a little bit of time today encouraging you about loving your husband well and just loving others well. I think we'll be able to just encourage you in that too. So go ahead, grab a cup of coffee, and you can go ahead and listen to this like you would a podcast if you want, if you have other things to do and you just want it playing in the background. So you'll have to let us know. Join us in the comments on the blog post after this and tell us if you watched us, if you listened to us, what you were doing, where you're watching from. We would love to know that. So Heather has taught me everything I know about pretty much anything related to podcasts or doing anything fun on the internet, because she just inspires me with her amazing creativity and just how she loves well online. So I'm really excited to talk to her today. And I just wanted to kick things off. I wanted to read a quick scripture for you. So excuse me while I look over here because I have a different monitor over here. I'm not ignoring you. I just have to look on this screen because I don't have this memorized. Maybe one day. But as I was thinking about what we were going to talk about today, God really put Colossians on my heart to share with you. And so this is Colossians 3:12 through 17 from the ESV. Put on then, as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience, bearing with one another, and if one has a complaint against another, forgiving each other, as the Lord has forgiven you, so you must also forgive. And above all, these put on love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony. And let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you are called in one body. And be thankful. Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, teaching and admonishing one another in all wisdom, singing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs with thankfulness in your hearts. And whatever you do, in word or deed, do everything in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. So I'm pretty sure this verse touches on everything I need to work on in community and friendship and my marriage. Kindness and humility and meekness and patience. Oh, Jesus, the patience. So as we talk about love and loving our husbands well today, that is just my heart that I personally would be able to take away from this some tips from Heather, who is awesome and encourages me all the time on how to do this a little bit better in my everyday. So Heather, I'm going to turn it over to you. Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are, where you blog, your family, all of that good stuff.
Well, like Crystal said, thank you, Crystal, first of all, for inviting me. What a treat and an honor to get to chat with your community. I have been married for 15 years, and we waited to have kids. We traveled a lot, had a lot of fun, moved 3 or 4 times in our first 5 years of marriage, and we now have, it's a good thing we got all that in, all that foundation, because we have 4 boys, ages 2.5, 5, 7, and 9. Yeah, just saying it out loud, it's a lot. But I have learned a lot in the last 15 years about loving, and when Crystal said, what do you want to talk about, one of the things that has been striking me lately is how God has been teaching me to love my husband better. I think I've always just been looking for what he can do for me and how he can help me and how he can take the burden, the motherhood burden for me, and when is he coming home, and you know, what can you do for the weekend so I can get a break, and not really thinking from his perspective, and what does life look like for him, and how is he burdened, and what could I do to make his life easier, and how can I love him best. So that was what I decided to chat with Crystal about today. So.
And I love that because, and I've written a little bit about this, but in this whole season of doing things online, on community and writing and everything, I just keep asking God, like, there's so many things we could do, right? Like, we could write books, and we could do this with our families, and we could do this activity, and we could go here, and I just keep asking God, okay, so what is it you want me to do? And I'm in a season where he just keeps saying, love them, love them, love them well. And I don't think I know how to do that all the time. I went to Declare, and where Heather was, and had a fabulous time with her, and had this great experience, and my husband always watches Maddie and loves it, and they do daddy-daughter dates, and they do all this great stuff together, and he keeps her alive and well and fed, and she gets a bath, and that's all I ask. Like, that's all I set out as my expectation, and I come home from 4 days away, and instead of being grateful and thankful and loving him well and appreciating him, I see the mess, and I see the dirty dishes, and I see the things that weren't done instead of seeing the things that he did do. Yeah. And it's just an area God's really been just working on me in. So, Heather, do you want to just share a little bit about maybe God, like when God put this on your heart, like how he revealed to you that maybe you needed to change from what can they do for me to what can I do for them sort of mindset?
I think the biggest thing in our marriage was when we first read the book, 5 Love Languages. And I don't know if you've seen that book, but it's been around forever. And if you haven't read it, it's going to transform all your relationships with your spouse, with your friends, with your kids particularly. But basically, everyone has a love language that they speak well, and they have a love language that they receive love well. And the problems come when I'm speaking a language and I think that it's communicating love to my husband, but in fact he has a different love language and we're missing each other. And so I could cook all these meals and have the house all cleaned, and I could buy him new pants and a swimsuit that he asked for, and that doesn't mean anything to him if I don't speak words of encouragement over him and say what a great husband he is. And if I don't, just hold his hand and let him rub my back, and if I don't speak to him with affection, physical affection, and words of encouragement, then he doesn't feel loved. And I think those two tend to be a lot of guys' love languages. Not all guys. I have friends who their husbands, it's quality time. And if they're sitting down watching a football game or a movie and the wife is over multitasking and working on, this doesn't really happen anymore, but scrapbooking, or she's on her computer shopping or tweeting, and the husband's like, I just want you to be with me and watch this show. And she's like, this is such a waste of time. Like, I could be so productive right now. Why do you want me to just sit with you? That's so silly. But that is their love language. And then for my husband, he is speaking all these words of encouragement, and he is so affectionate. But I like gifts. Doesn't have to be a Louis Vuitton 1,500 bag. Heavens to Betsy, let's save the starving children over buying me a bag. But I need to know that he thought about me during his day and took the time to get something. Flowers. Even a note can be a gift in that, yes, it's words of encouragement, but it's the time that it took in the giving of the note that's a gift for me. He does awesome washing the dishes, and he does a lot of stuff, like acts of service is one of them, but that's really not, and I'm quality time. I want to hang out and just be together, and that's not his either. So we really had to learn to love each other well. We had to stretch ourselves to speak another language, and learning another language is hard. My innate language is to criticize, not to encourage, and not to think of what he's doing well, but to compare him to all my friends' husbands and what all their husbands are doing well. Oh, her husband's leading a Bible study with their kids every morning, and her husband, this, that, or the other. And that's not my husband. God gave me my husband, and he is doing 1,000 things well, and I need to speak those words over him. So that is my first tip. Figure out your love languages and learn how to speak them.
It's so good. I mute myself. I've mentioned this before, I think, but I mute myself whenever I have guests on here because I will interrupt them with all of my agreeing and nodding and everything. And so the whole time I was like, I'm laughing. No one can hear me. Heather probably sees me looking like a fool down in her little screen down there. Yeah. But I mean, it's my story too. I mean, those love languages. Mine. Okay. Words of affirmation definitely, and I've always said that was my first, like my top one, mostly because it seems like the better one. Like I rank them in my head. Like that one seems like the least, like I don't know, like selfish, like, but it's really gifts for me. Like I love a gift. The day that I got off the airplane at Claire, and Matt and Maddie had stopped and got flowers for me. I mean, at the grocery store, like $5 flowers, but she came running at me with them. I mean, my heart just exploded into 100 pieces because that to me, it was it just meant, it's the thought, like it's thoughtful to me, and I think it's because I speak words of affirmation so easily that it doesn't seem like it takes effort to me the way that gift giving does. And so I think that's, so I know I speak words of affirmation well, but I really like to receive gifts because that in my head ranks as like that next step of, oh, that's extra effort, that's extra thought, even if it's a chocolate bar on a day that I'm just having a bad day and need some candy. So
Yeah.
For my husband, I'm learning it's acts of service, and words are fine for him, but it's acts of service, and it's physical touch. Physical touch is way low on my list. Like, I'm not a hugger. I'm not like, it's not my thing.
Yeah.
And so it takes, in the same way that he's not a gift giver, and that takes a lot of intention and time and thought for him. I have to put that much thought into physical touch with him. And, there was a day this week, he's a teacher, and he just went back to school to start teaching again. And Maddie and I have been getting up and getting his lunch ready. And the first day we did that, he was just blown away that we took the time to make his lunch. And it wasn't anything special. It was me distracting our toddler so she didn't have a meltdown before she got out of the house. And it was, doing something so they would get out of the house faster so I could get on with my day, honestly. And I didn't see it as an act of service, but he saw it as something he didn't have to do. And it was, us going out of our way to do something he normally would have had to scramble and try to put together. And so, when that is, I don't really, honestly, Heather, know anybody who's married to a person that has their exact same love languages. Like, I just don't. Do you?
And not many. I mean, I think that Bruce and I, the ones that we're common on, I don't think stand out to us because they're easy. The ones that stand out are the ones that are hard. And I think that we don't just speak one language, we speak multiple and combinations, which is good. And I think that you wouldn't ever be drawn to the person if you didn't have one common one. But it's the ones that stretch. It's the one that stretch us that make us notice.
Yes. Especially when they seem to be on such opposite ends of like the love language spectrum to me. So, and we haven't done it with our kids yet.
Yes.
Mostly because we only have one. I don't know why I said plural. Our kid. She's not really old enough, but it's fun for us to watch her. And we're trying to guess what her love language is. We're like, sometimes it's like definitely quality time because she just likes to curl up and snuggle and watch something. But some of them, she's just not to the point yet where she's, I don't think, she's only going to be 3. So, she's still developing her personality and what all that's going to be. And, as her brain develops, she's revealing more of that to us. But have you picked it out in your kids?
Oh, yes. I mean, oldest is gifts and words and affection. Second is you could give him gifts all day. It doesn't matter to him. He wants you to do things. He wants you to be with him all the time. And he likes words. My third, when he's acting out, I know he just needs a big, big hug and some good words. And my fourth is I don't think he needs quality time as much as affection and words. So again, they're all boys, and the things that I'm challenged on to love my husband well, I'm challenged on to love my boys well, and I could do. It's like Paul in 1 Corinthians 13. I could, and I used to go on Pinterest and do all these amazing crafts, and I was a stay-at-home mom who had all the themes for the day, and we would do all these amazing things, but the whole time I'm like yelling at them at what they did wrong. And, like, it's high tension, and, like, I'm doing the craft, I'm doing the activity, or I'm training them in the Bible story, but my attitude isn't loving or kind, so it's like a clanging cymbal. It doesn't, if I do everything right, but I don't have love, it's a clanging cymbal. And to love them well is to speak kindly and gently and encouragingly. That's not a word, but whatever.
It's good. It's a good word. We'll go with it. All right, so you said that the love languages were your first tip. What's your next one for us? What other goodie do you have for us, Heather?
I think it was when we just went through a really hard season the last 3 years. And actually, Bruce and I, we just, yesterday I just published a podcast where we talked about this season. He's had hard jobs. He used to work for a hedge fund. He used to run a company. He's worked in the healthcare industry. He's had intense jobs, but this job is like a startup internet company, and the internet's never closed. Like, I thought stock stuff was hard because it's always open. I thought healthcare, people are always sick. No, literally, the internet is never closed. So it is he would get like 2 to 4 hours of sleep at night, and he was exhausted, but he was still meeting mine, like, well, really our family's needs, and he was meeting his work's needs, but he wasn't getting his needs met, and we were, emotionally not connecting. And so my response could have been angry, bitter, nagging, critical, and I had to learn in that season that that wasn't going to work, that he was in that job that he was in, and my nagging and complaining was not going to make it better, that it was making it worse, in fact, with my attitude. So I needed to listen to him when he had a hard day and listen to the things that were hard for him and realize that the burden he was carrying at his work was heavy, and that I just added to that burden when I acted and grumbled and complained that he wasn't available. I also needed to encourage him when he did have any moment of free time to go be with guy friends, because he was going to choose me or the family over that. Or I needed to say, go play basketball. You just need your time, and I know he will love us better when he gets that time. And he or else he's just empty, pouring out. And so my next thing was know your husband's love languages too. Is realize that work is hard for them, and don't just assume because you had a hard day with kids that they had this easy day because they were with adults all day. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous. I mean, I used to have that mindset, like, oh, he's home. Oh, now he hasn't had anything to do all day, so give him the kids. Here's the baby. I'm going to go out and have, girl time. Like, he doesn't need guy time. So, yeah, that's my next tip, to love them well.
Yeah, that's good. And it is hard. I think for me, that internet is never a sleep thing. Oh, I get it. That's my life. I am on all the time, and it takes such intention to turn it off and walk away from it for a little bit, knowing, yes, it will still be there later. But I think that it's a challenge for me whenever my husband comes home and I have been working all day. And, for me, it's not so much the passing off of the kiddo because mine's in daycare, and it's moving from work brain to family brain for me gets really hard because I feel like I've been needed all day with work things, and he's been needed all day by 21 third graders, and then suddenly it's family time, and then I feel like I'm being needed by him and needed by our toddler, and he's being needed by me and our toddler, and we're constantly pouring out, and I forget. I encourage women who read my blog all the time to rest and step away and join something where they don't have to lead so they can be refilled, because leadership is exhausting and you're pouring out all the time. But I don't think about it all the time to encourage my husband to do that. And I do it a little bit mostly because I can't be the one counseling ear and the one person who receives all of his stuff all the time. It's not healthy. He needs guys that can relate and understand, and I can't do that as well as his wife. I'm not objective. I can't give him always what he needs to hear because guys handle things differently. He's a fix-it kind of guy, and if I have a problem, he wants to fix it. And whenever he has a problem, I just want to listen and say it'll be okay, and he sometimes wants me to fix it. And so, it's good for him to be able to have that outlet to go hang out with guys who they can just, sit around and eat some wings and watch some football and relate in the way that guys relate, right? Like they do it differently than we do. And sometimes he just needs that, and, where it's not also the pressure of unloading on his wife and then, whatever that does to our relationship because we both had bad days or something. So
Yeah.
that is super good stuff there, Heather.
Yeah.
Do you have another point for us? I feel like you might.
I might have another point. It kind of goes along with the love languages. Is I feel like you love people better the more you know them. So, even God. I think we love God and understand His love more when we know Him more. The more you know God, the more secure you feel in His love. The extremes He went to rescue you, His power, His strength. And I think when I know my husband's strengths, I can love him better because I'll tell you, Strengths Finders has been around for a decade, but my husband got a new CEO and he was really into it, and so everyone's taken this test. And so my husband was like, you got to take this test too. And he didn't just want me to find out my top 5, he wanted me to also find out my bottom 5, and because he found out his bottom 5, and it was very enlightening to him and me that deliberate was at the very bottom of his list. And I had always been the mom, the wife, who was like, why don't we have a plan? We need to have a plan. how are we going to handle discipline, and what are we doing for their future, and what do we want them to become? And I'm like wanting all this because I found out my bottom 5 is deliberate too. I was like hoping, because I'm not deliberate, that maybe you can be. And I kept putting that on him, and we'd have these really intense date nights some nights where it's like, what's our plan? And neither of us are like, I don't know, react all the time. React well. We both are top 5 woo, and a lot of relationship building, and a lot of spontaneous reactive thoughts, but not so much like planning ahead. And so when I found that out, it kind of released the burden from me and the burden from him. That's just not our strength. And, you know, maybe we need like a program to tell us what to do, but it's just not the area that we need to stress ourselves out. We need to build up our strengths, and God gave us our kids, and he made us who we are and put us together, and we're wooers. We're woo-hooers. And so that's what he built in us to encourage in our children, and maybe deliberate isn't just the family we're going to be. So to let that go.
Oh, that's good. I've taken Strengths Finders, and I have to go back and find my results. I can't remember what they were. I have a feeling deliberate might be a top one for me. Maybe not top 5, but I don't think it's at the bottom, which is funny because I would actually think it might be in my husband's top 5, because he is the kind, I always joke around, like he is like, let's plan to be spontaneous next Tuesday. Like that's how we do. Like, I want to just pick up and go on an adventure and like buy tickets to Disney World and just leave like on Friday. And he's like, wait a minute. Process this for 3 days, and then we have to price compare, and then we have to see who all wants to go with us, and then we have to make a plan, and then what are we packing, and how long are we going? And so like, which is funny because he's not really the to-do list kind, but like just spontaneous things like that. He's like, he wants to know, like, what's the plan? And I'm like, can't we just go and wing it? And I've learned that he can't. Like, he can't. So I've learned to just let that one go. That one's fine.
Yeah.
But then when we do have to make a plan, I'm all about the color-coded spreadsheet. So, you know, it's fine. Like, it somehow works. But I'll have to go back and look and see. I forget what the categories even are. So I'll have to, it's in my email
like
somewhere. I have it, but.
There's a lot. There's like 30-some. So.
I know. And I think I think it was on Kindle. It was free, or like $1.99 or something at one point. You could get the book, and then you could take the test. And like, I've never actually read the book. I just wanted to take the test, so I should probably just go read the book, like actually learn it. But
yeah. And they don't always give you the bottom 5. I think you have to pay. I don't know.
I think the top 5 are free, and then for the rest of it, like for the detailed analysis and the bottom 5 and all that, I think you have to pay. But
yeah. But I'd say no. Study your husband, study your kids, and then you can love them better because you really know who they are, and you're not expecting them to be someone they're not. So.
That's so good. And I love that just for community, too. I think that's so good for, like you said about God. I mean, that's what we're doing, you know, in our Christian walk. We're studying God. We're in His Word. We're learning about Him and His personality and what His promises mean. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the more that we learn that, the more we understand Him, the more we love Him, and then the more we realize we don't understand everything there is about Him, and there's always more to learn. And it's that way with our husbands and our families and our friends and the people that we engage with online. You know, I think it's easy to see one side of somebody when you're engaging in community online, especially, and just to remember that, you know, all of these things, you know, Myers-Briggs and Strengths Finders and love languages, it applies to everybody. We're so multidimensional, multifaceted. We're like onions, right? So we have all these layers, and so we have to figure out, you know, what's happening and who these people are that God is bringing into our lives, so we can love them well and not just do the one same thing all the time and think it's going to fit everybody, which is why I break blogging rules all the time, because I'm like, let's just see who in my community likes this today. Which might not be the best advice. Don't take that. Listen to everything Heather says and nothing that I say.
Well, I mean, that's what I don't like about blogging. If I interact with a real life person, I'm adjusting my communication to match that person. And I'm constantly like holding back advice if I can tell that that's not what they need right then, or I'm giving advice if that's what they ask of me. And so I don't like blogging because it's not like discipleship in that you're responding, you know, to the moment. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's definitely harder. It is, which is probably why I feel like I write to like 900 different people. I'm like, I'm writing to this reader. I feel like she wants some advice today.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
okay. It's all
Yeah.
right. We do the best we can, and we write what God's giving us, and we know He's got a person for it. So that's all we can do, right?
Yes. And one more thought. I know you probably need to wrap up, but as far as the God, comparison to the relationship comparison, I think one thing too is when we have trouble in our faith and we're angry with God, or we're just angry with people. A lot of times, and we hear this, counselors say this: lower your expectations, and you're expecting too much out of that person. We sometimes can expect too much out of God. We think He promised something that He didn't promise. God never promised obedient children. He just promised that things would go well if you obeyed. So He never promised a perfect life. So don't. I think you need to look and really study His promises, and you need to really accept people for who they are, and not have these super high expectations of every person you meet. So that's it.
That's a solid word to end on. I like it. Yeah.
Okay.
And, in addition to that, for me, it's been really changing my mindset. And you touched on this a little bit at the beginning, but changing from what can they do for me to what can I do for them? And
Mhm.
so I think whenever you start thinking that way about the people God's brought into your life, it really changes how you see them. It really changes the perspective you have on them and what's going on in their life. And it just makes me, anyway, feel like, okay, I have a purpose in this relationship, and it's to love them and love them well. And how can I do that for them today?
Mhm.
And not worry about what is it that they can do for me? What am I getting out of this relationship? How can I be there for them? And it's been a great change of mind for me, and even in how I write, not worrying about, oh, is this blog going to be one that gets, what are readers going to do for me out of this? Are they going to share it? Are they going to like it? Are they going to comment on it? But what can I put into what I write that's going to encourage and equip and inspire? And if I'm doing that on my blog, I really need to make sure I'm first doing that in my home. And in order for me to first be doing that in my home, I need to be in the Word where God is doing that for me. So I'm filled up. So I am so excited. Heather, thank you so much for hanging out with us
Of
today.
course, of course. You mean on Google Hangup?
Yes, on the Google, which so far has worked. So hopefully, with any luck, we'll cross our fingers. And when I click stop, it'll have recorded, and this will go live, and everybody will enjoy it. So Heather, thank you so much for hanging out with us today, and we will be back. I have a couple more of these for you guys, so be sure to check them out. Either subscribe over on my blog so you get notified, or you can subscribe to the YouTube channel that this video is going to be on so you get a notification when the next one goes up. So we'll see you guys later. Bye.
Bye.